Hello, is anybody out there? Tonight is a night that Heather has classes, so she's going to the University of Missouri, but she's doing it from the other room in the house. And so I came home from work, and there's no Heather to hang out with, so I thought I would hang out with you guys. So if anybody is around, pop into the chat, maybe ask a question if there's anything you're curious about. Tonight I'm using the Nikon Z6 and the FTZ adapter, and I have the 24-70 f2.8 on. And hello Hassan, how are you? Thanks for stopping in. I think this may be the first time I've ever streamed completely by myself. Usually I have Heather as a co-pilot, but instead tonight she is doing her thing. Thank you, Hassan. That's a really nice thing to say. Hassan said it's always nice when Phil goes live. I haven't been live in a while. I think the last time Heather and I went live is maybe when I unboxed the R6 Mark II. Might have been the last time I went live. Let's see. Ray says, "Hey Ray, how you doing, buddy?" Ray says, "Convince me to buy the Z70-200." Well, shoot, I already tried that today because I mentioned to you that day that me and Ron Durant and Tim Childers were at the Tennessee Aquarium. Ron and I were both taking pictures. There's a partridge in the butterfly area, and Ron and I were both taking pictures of that partridge. And Ron showed me the picture he got of that partridge on the back of his Z6 II, and it's as sharp as any photograph I've ever seen with any lens, anytime, anywhere. So, and I'm sure, hey, there is Ron. Hey, Ron, how you doing? I think Ron really likes his. So, yeah, I think you should definitely get one. And, you know, Ron had the Tamron like you have now. He had that before he got his genuine Z. I haven't been live since The Empire Strikes Back, Hassan says. That has been a while. So I don't have Heather to help me, so I'm going to try to keep my eye on the comments, which means I probably won't be keeping my eye on the camera up there. But let me show you something about this. This is the original Z6. It's on whatever the current firmware is. And people always talk about the Z cameras don't have good autofocus. Well, they have great autofocus for video. Like, for example, here's my hand in front of the camera. Now my hand's in focus. Take my hand away, bam, instantly I'm in focus. They are really great. Even this original, you know, I think the Z6 was the first Nikon Z series camera, and it's dynamite for video autofocus. I'm not thrilled with it for birds in flight, but man, I still use it as my video camera. I've been doing some waterfall photography lately with this. This is the, now watch, it's going to fail me. Focus on my hand. See, I talked nice about it, and now it's misbehaving. Anyway, I've been doing waterfall photography with this, the R6 Mark II and the 24-105, which when I got my first R6, I got the variable aperture 24-105, and I just didn't ever like that lens, so I sold it when I sold my original R6, and I got the good one. I got the L with the red stripe, 24-105 continuous f4, and I love this lens. I've hung out with Ray and Heather shooting basketball with it, which this really shouldn't be a basketball lens, but it did great. And man, it's a great waterfall lens. And so anyway, I've been enjoying using that, and I've also been doing waterfalls with my 17-40. I've got the EF 17-40 f4, and I've been doing the in-camera, they call it focus bracketing, but it'll output a stacked JPEG. And I struggled a little bit with that 17-40 making the stacks work nicely. There was, I mean, it occasionally it stacked, but it had some problems that I didn't like. And I got to working with that lens, and I noticed that it focus breathes. So when you're focused close and you don't change the zoom and you focus far away, there's some the size of the image changes like you're zooming. So, and that's called focus breathing, and that's not good for focus stacking. So I made the best waterfall picture I've ever made, and if you follow me on Instagram or if you follow me on Vero, you might have seen that picture. It's a picture of Foster Falls, and it's got a bunch of foreground interest with a root system of a tree, and then the waterfall's framed up between a couple trees. Anyway, it was better than my typical waterfall shot for sure, and I made it with that 17mm lens, and then instantly I sold it. And what I bought was the lens that's on the thumbnail. Let's see if I can get that on the screen. I bought one of these. This is the 14 to 35 lens, which it has some vignetting. If you're shooting at 14 millimeters, the corners are pretty dark, but the camera profile fixes that, so I'm not worried about that. But the reason I bought that lens and sold the 17 is this lens, the 14 to 35, has basically no focus breathing. So I usually buy my stuff at Murphy's Camera, but this time I decided I didn't want to. This lens is normally $16.99, which is kind of high. A lot of the Canon lenses are kind of high. A lot of camera gear is kind of high, honestly. And it's on sale right now for $200 off. As you can see here, it's $14.99. But I found a used one at MPB, which I wonder if I can bring up MPB. I don't know if I can. But anyway, I found a used one at MPB, which is another used camera site, kind of like KEH. And it was, I think, $1,136. So I don't know how to. Let's continue shopping. Let's see if they still have one. Nope, they sold out. They had two. And then I almost bought when they had two, and then the next time I looked, they were down to one, and now they have none. So anyway, it's supposed to come in tomorrow, and I'm going to go shooting a waterfall Thursday on my off day. Now let's see. I don't have Heather to help me out, so I've got to catch up on the comments all by myself. Sama Studio, album and mixing. Hello, thanks for coming to the stream. Your presentation is so good from India. Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. I really appreciate that. I've got my live stream set up different. Normally I live stream off that desk that's behind me, but I didn't feel like moving all my gear around, so I just set my Z6 behind my monitor. And usually I run two lights, one in each corner. And tonight I'm just running one. And then I do have some little, put it in the picture. I got a couple of these cheap $5 Walmart lamps, kind of giving me some rear lighting, and that's it. And I'm using, I've got this cheap Rode microphone plugged into the Z6. So that's the whole setup. But I'm glad that it is looking good. Let's see what Ray says. Then replace my 28 to 75 with a 24 to 70 and have the Z Holy Trinity. Yes, I think you should. And then you should sell your 28 to 75 to Ron. Let's see. Ron says he loves his. He's talking about his Z6 II, I believe. He has a pair of those, by the way. Let's see. Ron says, Ray, if you get the 70 to 200Z, go get the 2X teleconverter. I don't know if Ray's much of... Oh! That's alarming. You know what that alarm is for? I'm actually also doing laundry right now, in addition to doing a live stream and waiting for Heather to get done with her class. I'm doing laundry, and that's to remind me to get my laundry out. So I haven't heard it stop yet. But anyway, in a minute I'll have to get up and throw that in the dryer. Let's see. Canon lenses have always seemed so aesthetically pleasing. I agree. They're you know, and the crazy thing is, this thing's just plastic. Other than the where it connects, other than the mount, it's plastic front to back, but it's just the most pleasing feeling plastic. Well, I think this clicky one is probably metal, but anyway, yeah, I'm really pleased with the way the RF lenses look. They have a really nice look to them. Jay Do, hey Phil, found your channel as I'm learning my new R7. Great content, thank you so much. Super helpful, keep up the good work. Thank you. I will attempt to proceed with good work, and I thank you for joining me. Hey, the dryer just beeped. I apologize, or the washer just beeped. It won't take me 20 seconds to put that in the dryer. Be right back. Y'all talk amongst yourself. And we're back. Told you it wouldn't take long. Okay, let's see. Where was I? Hassan says, I've done business with MPV. Nice place to do business. Yeah, I have enjoying it so far. But you know what? Let me tell you one thing. You know, I usually sell my gear to Used Photo Pro, which is the used division of Robert's Camera. And I got an estimate from MPV, and I got an estimate from Used Photo Pro on that 17 to 40. And MPV their offer was $30 less than Used Photo Pro. So I bought from MPV because they had the lens I wanted, but I sold to Used Photo Pro because they offered me more. So if you want a perfect condition, virtually new 17 to 40 f4, Used Photo Pro is going to have one real soon. Okay, let's see what is next. MPB, that they have a USA site as well. My lens was shipped from New York. Hi Steve, thanks for joining. J Rod Photo Art, hello from Maryland. Hello there, J Rod, thanks for joining. Yeah, Hassan says UK and US. That is right. Oh, there's Heather. There's Heather, who is currently in class. You're supposed to be in class. You're not supposed to be in the live stream, but I'm glad you joined anyway. Heather, hello from the kitchen. Insert Jeopardy music here. Do, 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 do. Steve says, I have an alarm for dishes. No dishes overnight left in the sink. Good idea. Yeah, you know, the dryer, when it gets done, it beeps. And then it beeps. It has a wrinkle-free mode where if it sits for 2 or 3 minutes without you getting the stuff out, it'll run for a second and then beep again. So you can't forget about it. But the washer, it beeps one time, and if you miss it, you miss it. So I set an alarm on my phone. Anyone order the new Nikon 85 today? No, but I watched a couple of videos about it. It does look good. It's interesting to me that it is larger than the Canon 85 1.2, and yet it weighs less than the Canon 85 1.2. I'm sure the quality on that thing is going to be fantastic, and it's going to be a great lens for Nikon shooters for sure. Hassan says, so how's the weather here? That must have been while I was gone. Oh, and Ray timed me. 22 seconds is how long I was gone. I don't think I can pronounce your name, sir, but thank you for joining from India, and I definitely think you'll love that R7 if you get it. And thanks for joining. Weather is springtime here in Tennessee. That is right. And, oh, Heather was on a break. She's going back to class. Bye, Heather. Enjoy your class. So, I was out last Thursday, so not even a week ago, and I was hiking on the top of Signal Mountain, and I saw the first little bush plant thing on the side of the trail that had just a few little green leaves poking off of it last Thursday. That was the first sign of spring I've seen this year. But it was cold that day. It was genuinely cold, and today it is much warmer. Matter of fact, I wore a short sleeve shirt for a lot of the day, and I work outside kind of 50-50 inside outside in my job. Uh-oh, the comments are done. Let's have some more comments. What's going on? Oh, I tell you what you can do while you're thinking of a comment. Reach down and hit the thumbs up button. Give this live stream a like, and maybe it'll get pushed out and more people will see it, and then they can join in and ask some questions. But anyhow, I am excited about, see if I can get that to come back up on the screen without causing everything to stop. I'm excited about my lens coming in tomorrow, and I'm going to go do some waterfall photography with it Thursday. Let's see. Smash that like button. Thank you. Yes, please do. Are you a professional photographer? How do you afford to try out all the new gear? Well, no, I'm a professional car salesman. I sell cars for a living, so if you need a new Mazda or a Hyundai, come see me. But, you know, like I said, I bought that lens that I bought, like I said earlier in the live stream, I bought that used to save some money. So, but I love photography. Photography is my #1 hobby. I don't have a car payment to pay. So, you know, I don't wear expensive clothes, and I don't waste money on anything except for camera gear, because camera gear is what I'm into. Everybody's got a hobby, and mine is photography, and you know, and YouTube. So I don't get to try out all the new gear. For example, excuse me, Canon's probably going to release sometime this year. They're probably going to release the R5 Mark II, and I won't be buying that camera, so you won't see that camera on the channel. I just don't like to spend that much for a camera body because several reasons. One, I usually, you know, I take a lot of pictures, and I'd rather spend $2,000 or $2,500 on a camera body and wear it out in 2 years than spending $4,000 or $4,500. Plus, I don't need high resolution because the majority of my pictures go to YouTube, which is 4K at the max. So, but anyway, I enjoy photography, and that's why I spend a lot of the money that I earn elsewhere on camera gear. Okay, what is next? I see birds have been migrating earlier this February in Toronto. That's awesome. I don't know exactly when the spring migration is going to start here, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm very much looking forward to it. Oh, hello, Miguel. Miguel comments on every video, and I really appreciate that. Hi, Phil. Hope you're having a wonderful night. Yeah, I'm having a good time. Looking forward to Heather getting off work and hanging out with you guys until then. Let's see. Ray says softball starts soon, and the Southern Conference Tournament is in Chattanooga this year in May. That's awesome. Yeah, I was looking at the softball schedule. Ray is a fantastic sports photographer, and he's kind of helped me get access to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga Sports. Excuse me. So I'll definitely be doing some sports photography with Ray at Frost Stadium, and Heather too. Let's see. Hello, Nishant. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thanks for joining in. Do you ever shoot film? No, I don't. I admire the people that do, but I don't have the patience for that. Plus, I'm cheap. I like to take 500 pictures and it costs me nothing, instead of 500 pictures and costs me multiple rolls of film. I do like the idea of occasionally maybe flipping the rear screen of the camera backwards and taking 36 pictures and seeing, you know, without doing any chimping, and seeing what they look like when I get home. Actually, Ron Durant has kind of a photography club, the Crossville Club or something like that, and he had a photo challenge like that one time. But no, I'm all digital. Let's see. I am Hassan, message retracted. Okay, we won't comment on that one. Which one is better for photography? Canon R7, R6 Mark II, or XH2S? Well, I've never used that Fujifilm camera, but I can say that for me personally, I prefer the R7 for birds, and I prefer the R6 for portraits and for outdoor sports. I probably prefer the R6, and definitely prefer the R6 for indoor sports. But for small birds, I definitely like the R7 better. I'm also a Nikon Z50 user, just bought it. I have one of those right here, and I still use it from time to time. I don't use it as nearly as much as I used to. There was a time when the Z50 was my favorite go-to camera. and I don't use it nearly as much as I used to, just because I'm so crazy about these Canon cameras that I have been using lately. But I do enjoy the Z50, and I really like it. I like it for landscape photography and for street photography because it's so small. And I like to use the 50 to 250 kit lens for street photography with it. Hobbies for Days. Hey, Hobbies for Days, thanks for joining us. You can probably consider yourself a professional photographer since you make money with your photography-based YouTube channel. That is true. I mean, and I've shot, Heather and I did a wedding one time that we made a little bit of cabbage for, and the YouTube channel definitely pulls in a little bit of cabbage. So it's definitely a side job. I have to report the income on my taxes, so I guess you could say that. Z50 is a great camera. Totally agree. Your thoughts on the new Lumix S5 II and the rumored Canon R8 released tomorrow? I think that it's good that they've gone to phase detect autofocus with the Panasonic cameras, but I think they probably are still going to be way behind Canon and Sony and Nikon. You know, they're late to the party, but it's good that they finally have pushed contrast detect autofocus to the side. And the R8, it's not going to be for me. I'm not going to get one of those. I have to have an EVF. I use the EVF. I think it's a great idea for people who are planning on using it as a video camera, or people who like to shoot like this, you know, off the back screen instead of like this. But I shoot like this. So it's not for me, but I do think it has its place. Plus, I really, not having in-body image stabilization, you know, but if you're going to make a full-frame camera that has that many features, you got to cut some stuff to get to the price that they are going to sell that thing at. So anyway, I think it's a good idea, just not a good idea for me. What camera do you use when you just want a small camera for walk around? Smartphone? Yeah, probably a smartphone. You know, like for example, the selfie that I made on the thumbnail for this video, I did it with my phone. But if I'm going to do something a little more serious, even slightly more serious, I might carry the R7, I might carry the Z50. Those are great small cameras. When we went to Disney World, and there's 4 Disney videos coming up, I carried the R7 and the 18 to 150 kit lens, and I carried the 10 to 18 ultra wide lens. And you know, those were my theme park lenses. I did fireworks photography and all sorts of stuff. And then when we went to Animal Kingdom, which is another one of the Disney parks, I carried the 70 to 200 2.8, and it worked well because you can get really close to the birds in the bird aviaries there. So I didn't need the 100 to 500, but they're really dark, so that 2.8 lens really helped. But yeah, for a small walk-around camera, I use the Z50 or the R7. Hello, Beretaziga. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Phil. Have you used any of the Sony systems? I'm looking to go mirrorless, but don't know if I should go Sony or Canon. Is there a way to try them out first? You can rent cameras from various places. I know you can here in the United States. I'm not sure about other parts of the world, but you can definitely rent cameras. Now, of course, I'm going to say you should go Sony. You should go Sony. You should go, I mean, you should go Canon. Look at that. Freudian slip, probably. I'm going to say you should go Canon. You should go Canon. But a lot of people are going with Sony these days. And then, you know, there's nothing wrong with Nikon either. So if you have some friends who do photography, see if they'll let you use their camera for a few minutes and maybe tell you the things that they like and don't like about their camera, and that can kind of give you an idea of which way to go. But if it was my choice right now, I'd go with Canon. Hello from snowy South Dakota. Love your videos. Hey Bob, I've definitely seen you in the comments quite a bit. Thanks for joining in on the live stream, and thanks for hanging around. Hero Shots, thanks for joining. Let's see, put that new 85 1.2 on the Z50. Hey, why not? Why not? I have shot with an 85 1.8 on an APS-C camera. I think it comes out to On Nikon, I think it's like 135 millimeters. What is 85 times 1.5? 127.5 millimeters. Yeah, I've done some live music when I needed a little bit more reach, but it was really low light. I used to have the 85 millimeter f1.8G, and I've used that on APS-C cameras when I needed some more reach. Phil, I am in New York City at my sister's house. Awesome. And I go to Central Park almost every day. I've seen and photographed so many red-shouldered hawks in Central Park and tufted titmouse. That is awesome. You know, there was, a mandarin duck a couple of years back, 3 or 4 years maybe. There was a mandarin duck in one of the ponds in Central Park. And speaking of red-shouldered hawks, I had to drive from Cleveland, where I work, to Chattanooga to get some paperwork signed earlier today, and there was a red-shouldered hawk on the side of the interstate that had got hit by a car. I was really unhappy to see that, but that happens, you know. But I didn't like it. Let's see here. I will go to Cape May, New Jersey on April 17th and 19th for the warbler spring migration. That is awesome. I hope you get some great shots. I would love to join you, but I am stuck working every day, or most days. Hassan says, Phil, what do you love to shoot that you've not yet? Wow. I tell you exactly. Milky Way astrophotography. I would love to do some of that, but the thing about it is, and I'm going to blame this on Heather. I used to stay up pretty late at night, and these days I go to bed at 9:30. And to do astrophotography, you need to stay up pretty late. I think we're going to Vero Beach, Florida for a week in July. And I think I'm going to try to do some astrophotography then. But two things, I don't, when I buy camera gear, I don't buy specifically lenses that are great for astrophotography. So that kind of hurts me. You know, I lean more towards sports, music, and wildlife. And the few times I have done astrophotography, I'm just not that good at it. But so there you have it. That is what I need to learn. Bob from South Dakota, Phil, do you have or have you used a Canon R5? I just ordered one tonight. I've never used one. I've used my friend Bill Fouth from Mexico Beach, Florida, let me borrow his R3, and I shot some wildlife and a soccer match with it. But I haven't used an R5. I feel like it would shoot basically just like an R6 Mark I, which means very good, and then have high resolution files. I'm sure you're going to love that camera. Good night, Ron. Thanks for stopping by, and hope you have pleasant dreams, sir. Yes, I agree, Miguel. And matter of fact, I think Mark Smith, who is probably the best osprey photographer in the world, and he's probably that because he gets great practice, because I think he lives in Vero Beach. Unfortunately, I don't think July is the right time of year to go there for osprey, but I'm still going to try to find some of those places he shoots at, and Heather and I are going to try to find some osprey. Hopefully we'll be able to get some good osprey diving for fish shots while we're down in Vero Beach. That is the plan. Anyway. Ooh, I can't wait till my lens comes in tomorrow. All year you will find them. Yeah, I have seen them down there, but I think the feeding frenzy thing that you see in some of Mark Smith's videos, I think that's more of a spring thing, or maybe a fall thing, or anyway, not a July thing. Jupiter and Juno Beach, it's osprey season every day down here. I might need you to send me an email with good locations down that way when it gets closer to July, because we definitely want to. There was one time, I think it was like near an inlet or something, but I don't know exactly where. And it was a Mark Smith video, and there was this small body of water behind him, and he was doing his talking to the camera, and blah 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 blah. And I mean, every 15 seconds, an osprey was hitting the water, getting a fish behind him. It was amazing. We have the Chickamauga Dam here in Chattanooga, and in the tail waters of that dam, there's power lines. Obviously, it's a hydroelectric dam, but there's power lines that go across the river, and the big tower on each side of the river has an osprey nest in it. So there's the mother and father osprey in each nest, plus fledglings every year. And so when you have that, you still only have about 6. And it's in an area that is huge. You know, it's probably a square mile of tailwaters of the Chickamauga Dam where these 6 osprey are fishing. This thing that was behind Mark in that video, it was more like, I don't know, the parking lot of a 7-Eleven size thing. And it looked like there must have been 25 osprey constantly fishing behind him. Unbelievable. April is mullet migration. See, that's when I probably need to go. It's like that all day long. They drop out of the sky like raindrops. It's amazing. Yeah, I would love to go there during that. I only get so much off time, and I have to schedule it in a way that works not just for photography, but also for family vacations. So that makes it kind of tricky. Let's see. One of the best places is Blue Cypress Lake. It's about 20 minutes from Vero Beach. You can't miss it, and you won't regret your visit. I'm going to have to ask you about that. I'll probably, you know what? Maybe I'll take a picture of the screen. Because I definitely, when we go, look, I'm using something besides a real camera for photography again. When we go, I definitely want to go to some places like that. Let's see. Hey, Phil, I recently purchased an R7 and have enjoyed watching all your videos. Using yours, I'm curious, do you use back button focus when shooting wildlife? And if so, what focus mode do you typically use, and do you normally hold it down while you shoot? Well, I use autofocus continuous, which on Canon is called servo. I use on the main back button here. This is a R6 Mark II, but you get the idea. The main back button, I use full screen animal eye detect. Now, sometimes if you're shooting a small bird that's on a perch and it's in a thicket, the eye detect won't see that bird's eye. So on the second button, the star button, so you got the regular autofocus back button and then you got the star button. On the star button, I have that programmed for single point. So I'll put that single point on the bird and hit the star button, and that'll dial the bird in. And once the bird's dialed in, then I'll switch back to full frame face and eye detect animal, and then it'll usually lock on the bird's eye. So I use 2 back buttons, and all that can be programmed on I can't remember what menu it is. It's somewhere in the orange menus is where you program all that stuff, all those buttons. The same place you program back button, you just program an extra button. And I use that on my R6 is where I started doing that, and then I used it on my R7, and now I use that also on my R6 Mark II. Just followed you on Instagram and Vero. Oh, cool, good. I used to not post on there much, but lately I've gotten to where I'll post something. And usually if you see something that I've posted on Instagram and Vero, probably 3 or 4 weeks later, you'll see a video showing how I made that shot, because I'm usually that far ahead. Like I've got videos completed now all the way through March 4th, I think. So thanks for the follow. I appreciate that. That's exactly how I had it set up. Thanks. Cool. Just feel like focus is always great. Yeah, it's really, really good. I'm not saying there's no room for improvement, because there always is, but it's the best I've ever used. Canon autofocus seems a bit complicated. Well, let me see how to the reason it's more complicated than my Nikon camera, because like when I was using the Z50, I only needed 1 back button because I only used single point. You know what I mean? Because the full sensor focus just didn't work on birds. So I always used single point, and I would move that point around. You know, if I wanted the bird's eye to be not in the middle, I would move that single point to where. But with the Canon system, you just hit the button and you move your camera and compose the shot, and the focus will stay on the bird's eye. So it sounds more complicated just because you've got a second button to help you nail it, and then you can switch. But really, it's less complicated in the long run. Is it Vero Beach, Florida, that the osprey are in great numbers? Well, that's what I hear. I've never seen that myself, and I've been to Vero Beach. I've vacationed always in July, probably 5 or 6 times over the last 14 years when I bought my DVC timeshare. I stay at the Disney Vacation Club Resort there. And I've seen osprey, but I've never seen them in great numbers. So, but I don't know where to look. You know, I need a guide, or I need you guys to give me some ideas, like Miguel did with Blue Cypress Lake. So if you know, once I know where they're at, then I'll have better luck. Osprey, I love those birds. I always have trouble pronouncing it. I used to say osprey all the time, but I think it's osprey, like rhyming with like the Grand Ole Opry. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. But I don't know. I'm just this guy. Look, I'm bokeified. What else you guys got going on? I tell you, I'm getting a new ultra wide tomorrow. This is the small rig L bracket for the Fujifilm X-T3, and when I sold all my Fuji gear, nobody, this was said to have no value, so I still have it. It's the only thing I have left. But I love this thing because it gave you a wooden grip extension and an L bracket in the same piece of kit. Love that thing. Do you like macro photography? I really do, J-Rod. Very much so. I use the RF 100 macro, and I use a bonnet diffuser made by a company called Crafty Bells in Australia that just went out of business, so I'm glad I got one before they went out of business. And I use a Mikey MK320 flash. And there's a whole playlist on the channel called Flower and Macro Photography. But this time of year, I don't, in the winter, I don't do much macro photography. And then in the summer, I probably do too much macro photography. I had a Bugs from Work series where a lot of times while I'm walking around at work, I'd see a bug and I would carry a pill bottle, you know, like you'd get a prescription in. And I'd punched a bunch of holes in the cap, and I would find a bug of some sort, an insect or a spider, and I would capture it and put it in that thing and come home and make photographs of it. And I called the series Bugs from Work, and there's 6 episodes of that thing. So yeah, I love macro photography. Cranes in March for me. Yeah, we get the sandhill. Oh, I guess in Florida you probably get to see sandhill cranes with their babies. So that's really cool. Up here in Tennessee, sandhill crane season is December and January. There's an area about 40 minutes from here called the Hiwassee Wildlife Refuge, and you can see them there. That's I've got 2 recent videos on the channel of the sandhill cranes from there. Hey, Stephen. It was a coincidence. I was just talking about the sandhill cranes at the Hiwassee Wildlife Refuge, and that's where I finally met Stephen Stewart, who is a very regular viewer. Good to see you, buddy. How you doing? How do you decide which cameras to take for birding? Well, usually it's the R7 because to me that's my best birding camera, but sometimes I like to take other cameras that aren't the best birding camera just to kind of keep the content varied on the channel. I really enjoy using the R6 Mark II with the 800 lens for bird photography, so I'll probably do some more of that. And we've, I don't know if you guys saw, but Heather and I built a new blind on our back porch, and we made our first video in that blind, and we were using the R7 and the 100 to 500, and most of our shots were somewhere between 225 and 375 millimeters. So I don't need as much focal length. So I think I may be, next time we shoot from the blind, I may use still the 100 to 500 and the R6 Mark II. Because 300 times 1.6, what is 300 times 1.6? Is 480, and most of the shots were right around 300 millimeters, so I could use the full frame camera and get more than 480 millimeters with the 100 to 500, so I think I'll use it for that. But it's usually, to answer your question, it's usually the R7, and if it's not the R7, I'm trying to vary the content on the channel. Sandhill cranes, yes, yes. I always wanted to snap some of them. Yeah, they're awesome. They, you know, the cool thing about them is, they just, first of all, they make this awesome sound, which I almost tried to duplicate just now, but I realized there's no way I can do that. But they fly in such a way, it's hard to describe, but anyway, if you get the sun behind you and the bird in front of you, and they fly by kind of slow, so it's easy to track them. You know, if you try to track a small bird, they're bouncing as they fly. A sandhill crane is smooth, so it's easy to track, and it gives you a lot. I've shot, like, I think in one of the videos I was using the R6 Mark II, and I shot like 141 shots of one as it flew by, and I wasn't even in the fastest drive mode. So anyway, they're beautiful and they're easy to shoot if you go where they are. Let's see. What makes you take the R6 over the Z50 and vice versa? Well, that's a lot of comparison. Now we're comparing Canon versus Nikon, and we're comparing APS-C versus full frame. And for me, APS-C is usually better for birds than full frame. But for me also, the Canon autofocus system is usually better for birds than the Nikon autofocus system. So, with all that in mind, the best one for me is the APS-C Canon, which is the R7. I saw you use electronic shutter with the R7. I tried it and I'm getting lots of rolling shutter shooting at high frame rates. Gives me good amounts of keepers. What's your take on this? I agree completely. I don't use rolling shutter. I don't use electronic shutter for sports at all, because, you know, if you happen to catch the moment just right and rolling shutter has destroyed your picture, then man, it's not like that play is going to happen again. But for birds, I use the electronic shutter. I find that the autofocus works better on the Canon cameras in electronic shutter than it does in mechanical, probably because there's not a piece of steel bouncing in front of your sensor that's doing the autofocus 30 times a second or 15 or 12 or whatever. And for birds, like the sandhill cranes, they move so slow, there's not much rolling shutter distortion. You can't really even detect it even on the R7, which has a pretty slow sensor. The R6 Mark II sensor is pretty fast. It's not stacked sensor fast, but it's pretty fast. Where I have trouble with rolling shutter distortion is if I'm panning and following a bird in flight. There's Heather.
Crashing this party.
Hi, sweetie pie. What you doing?
I just got out of class.
How was class?
It was good.
Okay. Well, I'm going to finish up here. Let me answer the rest of the questions, and then we can. Well, it's 9:04. We're old grandparents. We're probably about ready to go to sleep.
Okay.
But let me finish answering these questions. If I'm panning and following a bird in flight, I'll see a lot of rolling shutter distortion in the background, like trees will be leaning funny, or buildings or whatever. So I don't like that. But for perched birds, I would much rather shoot with the electronic shutter because, first of all, you get more shots in, and there will be some. You know, if you're moving around, there might be some wobbles in some of your shots, but you're just way more likely to bag the shot in electronic shutter. But I go mechanical for sports. Let's see. Phil, you got me into macro after seeing a few of your videos on macro. I bought a Laowa 80mm. Oh, cool. Did you get it? Is it 80 or 85? I thought it was an 85. But anyway, that's cool that you like it, and I'm still thinking about maybe this spring getting the Laowa 85. It's an 85 millimeter 5.6. Central Platte River. I wonder what that means. I wonder if that's a good place to see. I wonder if that's a good place to see osprey. R6 destroys the Z50, I think. Well, it doesn't destroy it for reach. For example, if you have a 500 millimeter lens on an R6, you have 500 millimeters going to 20 megapixels. If you have a 500 millimeter lens on a Z50, you have 750 millimeters going to 20 megapixels. So as long as you can nail the focus on a small bird, then in that situation, the Z50 might destroy the R6. But the R6's autofocus is going to be better, and you can get the 800 f11 for $9.99. So anyway, it's hard to say what's better than what sometimes. Whenever I see sandhill cranes, I don't have my camera. You know, Heather and I were on the back porch recently, and we saw sandhill cranes flying over the house. At first, I see them at work, which is much closer to the Hiwassee Wildlife Refuge all the time. But it's the first time I'd ever seen sandhill cranes fly over the house. But we did. So I guess they were leaving the area. They hang around this area for a while in December and January, and I guess in early February they were heading out. Let's see here. I got to try to get caught up. Never see sandhill cranes. I don't have my camera. Have a great evening. Oh, Ray's saying Ray shoots with a Z9. It doesn't even have a mechanical shutter, but the Z9, like the R3 and the A1 and the A9, has a stack sensor, and it's fast enough to where you can shoot with electronic shutter in sport situations and not have to worry about rolling shutter. And one day I'm going to have a stack sensor, but it's going to be one day when they start putting stack sensors in cheap cameras instead of flagship cameras. But as much sports photography as Ray does, he definitely needs a stack sensor camera, and I'm glad he got one. Have a great evening all. You too, J-Rod. Thanks for coming by. I've forgotten what a mechanical shutter is like. I imagine so, because I guess Ray's had, I don't know how long you've had that thing, but I'm going to say 6 months maybe? That's where Z9 excels over the likes of the R series. No detectable rolling shutter. Well, yeah, there's no rolling shutter. I like to say I did soccer with an R3, and it's got a stack sensor. No rolling shutter with that either. Ah, Bob, cool. Yours is the 85, and you're loving it. That's awesome. That means it's even more reason for me to get one. Hassan says a shutter is what people have on the houses to protect them from storms. That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. Hero shots. The RAF beats everything. I agree. Central Nebraska. Oh, okay. I wonder if that's a place to see osprey, or if that's a place to see sandhill cranes. Let's see. Hero shots. It's a $5,500 camera with a stack sensor. Better not have rolling shutter. Yeah, exactly. I went to Kearney, Nebraska, late spring for sandhill crane migration. Simply amazing. Agreed. Hi, Patty Hayes. Hello. Found you several months ago when I was researching Z50 after I bought it. One thing leading to another. Now I have a used D500 and a 200-500 on the way to get the reach I'm needing. Cool. You know, you'll like that 200 to 500 also on your Z50. I've used mine with an FTZ adapter on the Z50 quite a bit. But as a matter of fact, here's my thoughts on that. For perched birds, in other words, not birds in flight, I like the Z50 with the 200 to 500. For birds in flight, I prefer the D500 with the 200 to 500. And Ray, I know you're going to get one of these days. You'll be like Ron. He has two. Excuse me, I kind of coughed tonight. Ron has two Z6 or Z6-2s, and Ray's going to have a second Z9 before you know it. Thank you, Patty. I really appreciate the nice comment. Good night, all. Thanks for the live stream. Keep the videos coming. Will do, Bob. Good night. Hero Shots is trying to tempt Ray into getting a used Z9 from MPB, which that's where I bought my new lens. Phil, you should do a throwback video with your old DSLR. Well, I did one just after I dropped my my first R7 into a creek. I did get the D500 out and do a video or two. And when sports season comes, as a matter of fact, this coming Thursday, no, not this coming Thursday, the Thursday after, we're going to shoot girls basketball at UTC, and I may take the D500 and my 24 to 72.8. I think that'll be fun because Heather's going to be shooting with my RF 24 to 72.8 on her R7, so I may bring my D500. That thing, it makes so much noise it'll interrupt the basketball game. Clang, 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 clang. Let's see. Right now in South Louisiana, lots of spoonbills and ibis in the swamps and skies. You are never going to be dumb, Ray. You just got better gear now. That doesn't mean you're dumb. He says, I have a graph and everything. All right, I finally caught up on the comments, so I am going to end it right here and say goodnight. Thanks for joining on this impromptu live stream out of the blue while I was waiting for Heather to get done with school. But now she's done with school, so good night. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, give me a thumbs up, hit the bell, and all that stuff. See you next time. Good video coming out tomorrow morning from Orlando Wetlands. Make sure and check that one out. Good night. Bye-bye.